Amy Fletcher opened her eyes slowly. The world around her was strange and cold. Everything looked like it was made of blue crystal. She tried to move, but her hands were locked in metal chains. The air smelled different, like flowers mixed with metal. Head hurt badly. She remembered her ship, the Pioneer Edge, fighting against enemy vessels. They had been protecting families trying to escape from New Montana. The farmers and their children were running from the war. Amy and her crew stayed behind to give them time to get away. Now she was somewhere else. The walls around her glowed with soft blue light. She could hear strange music in the distance. It sounded like wind chimes mixed with singing. The floor under her was smooth and warm even. Though everything looked cold, Amy sat up and looked around better. The room was small, but tall. The ceiling went up so high she could not see the top. There were no windows, but light came from everywhere. She wore the same uniform from her ship, but it was torn, and dirty footsteps came from outside her cell. Two figures walked toward her through the crystal walls. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin. Their hair was silver like moonlight, and their ears were pointed like the elves from old Earth stories. The first one was older. Amy could tell from the way she moved. She had cold eyes and wore a dark uniform with many symbols on it. The second one looked younger. Her eyes were curious, and she seemed nervous as she looked at Amy. The older one spoke in a voice that sounded like music but felt cold. Amy understood the words somehow, maybe through a translator device. I am Commander Lirelei Moonwhisper of the Valen Empire. You are my prisoner now. Human Amy tried to stand, but the chains held her down. She looked straight at the commander and did not show fear. Her father had taught her that showing fear only made bullies stronger. I am Lieutenant Commander Amy Fletcher of the Terran Defense Fleet, she said clearly. The younger alien stepped forward a little. Her voice was softer than the commander's. I am Lieutenant Zyra Starfall. Why do you not seem afraid? Human, your ship was destroyed. Your crew is dead. You are alone and far from your home. Amy felt pain in her heart thinking about her crew, but she kept her face calm. She had trained for this. Many soldiers were captured in war. The important thing was to stay strong and protect information that could hurt other humans. My crew died doing their duty, she said. They saved thousands of families that day. I am proud to have served with them. Commander Lirelei walked closer to the crystal barrier between them. Her silver hair moved like water when she walked. Amy noticed that the commander was very beautiful, but her eyes were full of anger and hate. Your people are like children playing with fire, she said. You spread across the galaxy too fast. You take worlds that do not belong to you. You will destroy everything if someone does not stop. Amy shook her head slowly. That is not true. We only take empty worlds, or trade fairly with others. We help people who ask for help. The commander laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Lies all your kind knows is lies and violence. You attack peaceful worlds. You steal resources. You corrupt everything you touch. You remembered the families on New Montana, the children playing in wheat fields while their parents worked. The old man who grew the best apples she had ever tasted. The young mother who sang lullabies to her baby. All of them just trying to live good lives. The people of New Montana were farmers. She said they grew food and raised animals. They never hurt anyone. Why did you attack them? Lieutenant Zyra looked uncomfortable. She glanced at her commander, then back at Amy. The younger alien seemed to want to ask something, but stayed quiet. We attacked because they were humans, Commander Lirelei said simply. Your species is a disease that spreads too quickly. We must cut out the disease before it kills the galaxy. Amy felt anger rise in her chest, but she controlled it. Getting angry would not help anything. She needed to stay calm and think clearly. Are wrong about us, she said. Humans help each other. We build schools and hospitals. We explore space because we want to learn, not because we want to hurt anyone. The commander turned to Lieutenant Zyra. Time to begin the questioning. Make her tell us about human fleet positions and shipyard locations. Use whatever methods are needed. Lieutenant Zyra nodded, but Amy saw doubt in her young face. The alien activated some kind of device, and suddenly, Amy felt pressure in her mind, like someone was trying to push into her thought. Amy fought against the pressure. She thought about her training and her duty. She would not give away information that could get other humans killed. Instead, she thought about good memories, the sunset over New Montana wheat fields, the sound of children laughing, the smell of fresh bread from the colony bakery. Tell us where the new human shipyards are located, Commander Lireley demanded. Amy looked straight at her. I will not tell you anything that could hurt innocent people. The mental pressure got stronger, but Amy kept thinking about good things. She remembered her friend, Kate, who loved to paint pictures of flowers. She thought about old Pete, who fixed engines and always had candy for the kids. She remembered the colony doctor, who worked day and night to help sick people. The aliens looked surprised that their machine was not working. Lieutenant Zyra checked the device and tried again, but Amy kept her mind focused on protecting others. This is impossible, Zyra said quietly. Humans are supposed to be weak-minded. They should break easily. Amy smiled a little, even in pain she felt, proud of her people. Maybe we are stronger than you think, she said. Commander Lireley hit a button, and the pressure stopped. She looked angry and confused. How do you resist the neural probe? It works on every species we have tested. Amy sat up straighter in her chains. We have something you do not understand, she said. We have hope. We believe in something bigger than ourselves. When you fight for others instead of just for yourself, you become stronger. The two aliens looked at each other. Amy could see they did not understand what she meant. That made her sad for them. Living only for yourself must be a lonely way to exist. The commander turned to leave. We will try other methods, she said. Your resistance will not last long, Jimenez. They walked away. Amy heard Lieutenant Zyra ask her commander something quietly. Amy could not hear all the words, but she caught parts of it. What did she mean about fighting for others, and why does she not hate us even though we destroyed her ship? Closed her eyes and tried to rest. She knew harder times were coming. But she also knew that sometimes the most important battles were not fought with weapons. They were fought with ideas and hope and the belief that all thinking beings could choose to be better than they were. The crystal walls around her hummed softly. Amy thought about home and the people she had sworn to protect. She would find a way to honor that promise, even here in this strange prison, far from Earth. Days passed slowly in the crystal prison. Amy lost count after the first week. The aliens came every day to question her. They used many different methods to try to break her will, but Amy stayed strong. Commander Lireley brought new machines that made pictures in the air. The pictures showed Amy being executed in front of crowds of cheering villains. They showed her friends and crew members being tortured. Amy knew the pictures were fake, but they still hurt to watch. We found your crew in the wreckage of your ship, the commander said coldly. They suffered greatly before they died. Tell us what we want to know, and we will make your death quick. And painfully Simi closed her eyes for a moment to push away the sad feelings. Then she opened them and looked straight at the commander. My crew chose their fate, she said. They died free. That is more than I can say. For your people. What do you mean by that? Zyra asked. Suddenly her commander gave her a sharp look, but the young alien seemed genuinely curious. Simi thought carefully about her words. You follow orders without question, she said. You never ask if those orders are right or wrong. You are prisoners of your own system, even though you think you are free. That is loyalty and discipline, Commander. Lireley snapped. Something your chaotic species could never understand. Amy shook her head slowly. No, that is fear. You are afraid to think for yourselves, afraid to question authority, afraid to be different. Real loyalty comes from choice, not from fear. Lieutenant Zyra stepped closer to the crystal barrier between them. What do you mean by choice? Amy saw interest in the young alien's eyes and decided to take a chance. On Earth we have an old saying, she said. A person who stands for nothing will fall for anything. We choose what to believe in. We choose what to fight for. Nobody can force us to betray our values. But how can you choose? Commander Lireley asked, with confusion in her voice. How can millions of beings make individual choices and still work together? It should create chaos. Amy smiled, thinking of home. It does create chaos sometimes, she admitted, but it also creates beautiful things. Art and music and stories that come from the heart, new ideas that make life better for everyone. Love that crosses all boundaries. Over the following days, Amy began telling them stories about human worlds. She described the floating cities of New Venice, where artists painted murals on the sides of flying buildings. She told them about Cavern Prime, where people grew gardens and underground caves that glowed with natural crystals. Lieutenant Zyra listened to every word. She asked questions about human customs and traditions. She seemed amazed when Amy described how humans from different planets shared their cultures with each other on your world called Garden Valley. Amy said people grow food for other worlds just because they want to help feed hungry people. They do not ask for payment, they do not demand loyalty, they just give. Because giving makes them happy. That makes no sense. Commander Lirale said, why would anyone work without rewarding me? Looked at both aliens with pity in her eyes. Because the reward is not money or power. She explained the reward is knowing you made someone else happy. The reward is building something beautiful that will last after you are gone. One day, Zyra came alone to ask Amy questions. The commander was busy with other duties. Amy could see the young alien was struggling with something. You said humans believe in second chances, Zyra said quietly. What does that mean? Me thought about how to explain it. On my world there was a man who stole food because his family was hungry, she said. When the police caught him, they could have put him in prison. Instead, they gave him a job growing food for the community. He became one of our best farmers, but he was a criminal, Zyra protested. Why did they trust him? Because people can change, Amy said, if you give them the chance. That man made one mistake, but he was not a bad person. He just needed help. Everyone deserves a chance to be better than their worst moments. Zyra was quiet for a long time. Then she asked something that surprised Amy. Have you ever seen a natural sunset? Amy blinked in confusion. Of course, many times. Why, I've never seen one. Zyra admitted, we live in controlled environments with artificial light. Our leaders say natural light is unpredictable and dangerous. Amy felt sorry for the young alien. Oh Zyra, you have missed something wonderful, she said. The sunset over New Montana was like watching the sky catch fire. Orange and red and purple all mixed together. The light made the wheat fields look like they were made of gold. Tell me more about it, Zyra said eagerly. Closed her eyes and remembered every evening the sun would get lower and the colors would change. She said the air would get cooler and smell like growing things. The farmers would stop working and families would come out to watch together. Children would run and play while their parents talked. Old people would sit in chairs and remember their own childhoods. Sounds peaceful, Zyra said with wonder in her voice. It was. Amy agreed. The most peaceful time of day. Everyone would be quiet and happy, just watching something beautiful that happened every day but was never exactly the same. Why do humans care so much about beauty? Zyra asked. Tommy opened her eyes and looked at the young alien. Beauty gives life, meaning, she said. When you see something beautiful, it reminds you that existence is worth the struggle. It makes you want to protect good things and create more of them. Commander Lirale returned and found them talking. She looked angry at her subordinate. Lieutenant Zyra, you are supposed to be interrogating the prisoner, not having friendly conversations. Zyra straightened up and put her official mask back on, but there was still curiosity in her eyes. The young alien had started to see humans differently. Amy could tell that night. Amy heard the two aliens talking outside her cell. She could not understand all the words, but she heard emotion in their voices, especially from Zyra. The young alien sounded like she was asking questions that made her commander uncomfortable. Next day, they tried a new torture method. Commander Lirale used a device that created pain without leaving marks. Amy gritted her teeth and endured it. But inside she felt proud that she was protecting information that could save human lives. Between the pain sessions, Amy continued telling stories. She told them about human poetry and music, about the way different colonies celebrated holidays, about how human children learned to read by sharing stories with each other. Lieutenant Zyra listened to everything. Her questions became more personal. She wanted to know about human families, about friendship, about what humans did for fun. Amy answered honestly, trying to help the young alien understand that humans were not monsters you speak of. Humans helping each other, Zyra said one day. But your species fights wars. Just like ours. Amy nodded sadly. Yes, we do fight sometimes, she said. But we also have people who work to stop wars, people who help the wounded on both sides, people who try to find peaceful solutions. We are not perfect, but we keep trying to be better. Why do you keep trying? The young alien asked. Why not just accept that war and suffering are natural because giving up makes you less than you could be? Amy replied. Every person, every species has the potential to grow and learn and become something beautiful. If you stop trying, you waste that potential. Amy could see that her words were having an effect on Lieutenant Zyra. The young alien was starting to question things she had never questioned before. Amy hoped that someday those questions might lead to understanding between their peoples. Weeks passed and Amy grew weaker from the constant questioning and little food, but her spirit stayed strong. She continued sharing stories about human culture and values. Lieutenant Zyra seemed more interested with each passing day, while Commander Lirale became more frustrated. One morning, Amy collapsed during a particularly harsh interrogation session. The neural probe had been running for hours, and her body could not take any more. She fell to the crystal floor, breathing heavily and unable to get up. Commander Lirale looked down at her coldly. Pathetic, she said. Your weakness proves that humans are inferior to Velans. She turned to leave the cell. Lieutenant Zyra hesitated, then stepped forward. Commander, should we not let her recover before continuing? The prisoner is no use to us. If she dies, let her suffer a while longer. Lirale replied. It might motivate her to cooperate. She walked out, leaving Zyra alone with Ami. The young alien waited until her commander's footsteps faded away. Then she quickly opened the hidden panel and brought out water and some kind of alien medical device. She knelt beside Amy and helped her sit up. Here, drink this slowly, Zyra said quietly. The water was cool and tasted slightly sweet. It made Amy feel a little stronger. Thank you, Amy whispered. Why are you helping? Mazira looked around nervously to make sure they were alone. I do not know, she admitted. I just could not watch you suffer like that. Amy studied the young alien's face. You have doubts about this war, do you not? Zyra was quiet for a long moment, then she nodded slowly. My brother died at the Battle of Kepler Station, she said. He believed he was fighting to protect our empire from human aggression, but listening to your stories, I wonder if we are the aggressors. Amy reached out and gently touched Zyra's hand. What was your brother like? He was kind, Zyra said, with tears in her silver eyes. He loved poetry and music. He wanted to explore distant worlds and learn about other cultures. When the war started, he said it was his duty to fight, but I know he hated violence. He sounds like a good person, Amy said softly. Many good people die in wars on both sides. That is what makes war so terrible. So terrible. Zyra wiped her eyes. I joined the military to avoid an arranged marriage, she said. My family wanted me to marry a noble I despised. He was cruel and cared only about power. I thought serving the empire would give me honor and purpose. And has it, Amy? asked. Zyra looked around the crystal prison. I thought so until I met you, she admitted. You show more honor as a prisoner than many of my superiors show as leaders. Amy smiled sadly. Honor comes from inside, she said, not from rank or uniform. Your brother had honor because he was kind, the noble your family chose had no honor because he was cruel. Do you really believe people can change? Zyra asked. Like you said in your stories. Amy nodded. Yes, but only if they choose to change. Nobody can force someone to become better. They have to want it for themselves. What if I wanted to change? Zyra asked quietly. What if I wanted to be more like the humans in your stories? Amy looked at the young alien with hope. You already are changing, she said. The fact that you are asking these questions means you are growing. Every day you choose to be kind instead of cruel, you become more of who you are meant to be. Zyra stood up quickly when they heard footsteps approaching. Commander Lirale returned with several other Valan officers. They looked official, and serious. New orders came from high command. Lirale announced you have 72 hours to break the prisoner. If she does not cooperate by then, she will be executed. Me felt her heart skip. but she kept her face calm. She looked at Zyra and saw fear in the young alien's eyes, not fear for herself, but fear for Amy. That evening, Zyra returned alone. She brought more food and water, and sat outside the crystal barrier, looking troubled. Amy, I need to tell you something, she said quietly. I accessed our databases today. I found information about the attack on Nuke Montanawa. Did you find? Amy asked, though she suspected the answer would be Petite was not a military target, Zyra said, with shame in her voice. The attack was ordered to test nuke weapons on human civilian populations. Your people were murdered just to send a message of fear. Amy closed her eyes and felt deep sadness. She had suspected this, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. The families she had tried to protect had died for no reason except cruelty. Commander Lirelay knew this. Amy asked Diaz. Zyra whispered. She followed the orders anyway. She said it was necessary for the Empire. Opened her eyes and looked at the young alien with compassion. You are learning the difference between following orders and doing what is right, she said. Sometimes they are the same thing, sometimes they are not. The hard part is knowing which is which. How do you know? Zyra asked. Listen to your heart, Amy said. Your heart tells you that killing innocent families is wrong, even if your commanders say it is right. When your heart and your orders disagree, you have to choose which one you will follow. But if I disobey orders, I will be branded a traitor, Zyra said. My family will be dishonored. Amy leaned forward. Sometimes doing the right thing costs everything, she said, but the cost of doing wrong things is even higher. When you compromise your values, you lose yourself. That night, Zyra stayed and talked with Amy for hours. She asked about human philosophy and ethics, about how humans decided right from wrong. Amy shared everything she could, trying to help the young alien find her own path. Do you have poetry in your culture? Amy asked. Yes, Zyra said. We have ancient verses passed down for centuries. Would you share one with me? Amy requested. Zyra looked surprised. A human wants to hear Valen poetry. Amy smiled. All thinking beings create beauty, she said. I would be honored to hear your people's art. Zyra took a deep breath and recited in her musical voice. Stars that shine alone in darkness know the weight of empty space, yet still they burn with distant fire, calling out to kindred hearts. Across the void their light reaches, speaking words that cannot die. That is beautiful, Amy said. It reminds me of a human poem. Would you like to hear it? Zyra nodded. Eagerly Amy recited from memory. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all. The two sat in comfortable silence for a while, both thinking about the similarities between their people's poetry. Finally, Zyra spoke. Your people and mine are not so different, are we? No, Amy said. We are not different on the outside, but the same where it matters, in our hearts, and our need for beauty and meaning and connection. As dawn approached, Zyra prepared to leave, but she turned back one more time. Mommy, if there was a way to save you, would you want me to try, even if it meant I could never go home? Amy looked at the young alien who had become her friend. Yes, she said. But more than that, I would want you to do it because you believe it is right, not just to save me. Zyra nodded slowly. I understand, she said. I have much to think about. After she left, Amy sat in her crystal cell and felt something she had not felt since her capture. Hope was growing in her heart, not hope for her own survival, but hope that understanding between species was possible. Hope that good people like Zyra could choose love over fear. The 72-hour deadline approached quickly. Amy could feel the tension growing between her two captors. Lieutenant Zyra looked more troubled each day, while Commander Lirelay became colder and more determined. On the final day, Lirelay entered the cell with official documents in her hand. Her silver hair was pulled back severely, and her face showed no emotion. Human, your time is up, she announced. Tomorrow, at dawn, you will be executed for crimes against the Valen Empire. Your refusal to cooperate has sealed your fate. Hayes stood as straight as her chains would allow. She looked directly at the commander with calm eyes. Thank you for treating me better than I expected, she said. I ask only one thing, please, tell my people that I did not break. Tell them I kept my promise. Relay seemed surprised by this response. Most prisoners begged for their lives, or made desperate offers to trade information for survival. Amy had done neither. You are not afraid of death, the commander asked everyone. Is afraid of death, Amy replied, but there are things worse than dying. Living without honor is one of them. Betraying innocent people is another. After Lirelay left, Zyra came to the cell. The young alien looked like she had not slept in days. Her silver eyes were red from crying, and her hands shook as she approached the crystal barrier. Amy, I cannot let this happen, she said desperately. There must be something I can do. Amy saw the pain in her friend's face and felt moved by her caring. You have already done more than you know, she said. You showed me that there are good people among your species. You proved that enemies can become friends, but they are going to kill you tomorrow, Zyra said, with anguish in her voice, and I will have to watch. Amy moved as close to the barrier as her chains allowed. Listen to me carefully, she said. What matters is not whether I live or die. What matters is what you do next. You have learned that your empire commits acts of evil in the name of order. Will you continue to serve that system, or will you choose a different path? I do not know how to choose differently, Zyra admitted. If I rebel against my commanders, I will be labeled a traitor. My family will suffer. My whole life will be destroyed. May nodded with understanding. Change is scary, she said, but staying the same when you know better is scarier. When you know something is wrong and you do nothing about it, you become part of the problem. That night Zyra did not leave. She sat outside the cell and talked with Amy about everything. The young alien shared stories about her childhood, about her fears and dreams, about the brother she had lost. Amy listened and offered comfort when she could. Near midnight they heard footsteps in the corridor. Commander Leary appeared, looking tired and older than before. She stopped when she saw Zyra sitting with Lieutenant. What are you doing here? She asked with suspicion in her voice. I could not sleep, Commander, Zyra replied. I wanted to understand why this human refuses to. Brecklerly studied both of them. With sharp eyes she seemed to sense that something had changed between her subordinate and the prisoner human. She said to Amy, do you have any last words before your execution? Amy looked at both aliens with compassion. I want you both to know that I forgive you, she said. You were following orders that you believed were right. Even if those orders were wrong, your intentions were not evil, Commander. Lirelay stepped back, as if Amy had struck her. What do you mean? She demanded. You lost someone in this war, Amy said gently. Someone you loved? That pain made you angry, and that anger made you want revenge. But revenge never brings back the people we lose. It only creates more pain. How do you know about my personal losses? Lirelay asked. With Shaksira told me about her brother who died at Kepler Station, Amy explained. I could see the same grief in your eyes, the same need to make someone pay for your loss. Lirelay was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. I lost my younger brother in that battle. She admitted he was only 50 years old, barely an adult by our standards. He believed in the nobility of serving the Empire. I felt tears in her eyes. I am sorry for your loss, she said. Truly, your brother and Zyra's brother probably would have been friends if they had met during peacetime instead of war. Why do you care about our pain? Lirelay asked. With confusion. You are our enemy. We destroyed your ship, killed your crew, captured you. Why do you show us kindness? Because pain is the same everywhere, Amy replied. Grief feels the same whether you are human or Valen. When we share our pain instead of using it as a weapon, we can heal together. Commander Lirelay turned and walked away quickly. Amy could see that her words had affected the older alien. Deep Lazira waited until her commander was gone, then spoke quietly. Amy, there is something else I must tell you. I found more information in the databases. The attack on New Montana was not approved by the High Council. It was ordered by a small group of extremists who want to escalate the war. Why are you telling me this? Amy asked. Because you deserve to know the truth, Zyra said, and because I think Commander deserves to know too. She has been following illegal orders. Her brother's death was used to manipulate her into committing war crimes. Amy felt a mixture of sadness and hope. The sadness was for all the people who had died because of lies and manipulation. The hope was that maybe the truth could set everyone free. "What will you do with this information?" Amy asked Ty. "Do not know," Zyra admitted. "I am scared if I reveal this information I will be seen as a traitor, but if I stay silent, more innocent people will." Amy reached toward the barrier, wishing she could comfort her friend. "The right choice is rarely the easy choice," she said. "But you already know what you need to do. Your heart is telling you." Zyra nodded, with tears flowing down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "My heart is telling me to stop this madness, even if it costs me everything." The young alien stood up with new determination in her posture. "Amy, tomorrow morning before your execution, I am going to tell Commander Leary what I discovered," she said. "If she is the person I hope she is, she will help us do what is right, and if she is not," Amy asked, "then I will find another way to stop this," Zyra replied. "I will not let you die for the lies of extremists, and I will not let your death be used to justify more." Simi smiled with pride at her friend. "You have already changed so much," she said. "You are becoming the person you were meant to be." Dawn approached both aliens, prepared to leave. Zyra looked back one more time. "Mamie, whatever happens, I want you to know that meeting you changed my life," she said. "You showed me what it means to have real courage, not the false bravery of following orders, but the true courage of standing up for what is right." Amy felt warmth in her heart, despite the cold crystal around her. "And you showed me that understanding between our peoples is possible," she replied. "No matter what happens tomorrow, that hope will live on after." They left. Amy sat in silence, preparing herself for whatever the morning would bring. She had done everything she could to plant seeds of change in the hearts of her captors. Now she could only wait to see if those seeds would grow into something beautiful. Dawn came too quickly. Amy woke to the sound of footsteps approaching her cell. She had not slept much during her last night, but she felt strangely peaceful. She had done her best to share human values with her captors. Now, whatever happened was in their hands. Lieutenant Zyra arrived first. She looked determined, but scared. Her silver hair was messy, and her eyes were wide with nervous energy. She carried data tablets and official documents. "AIA, have to show Commander Leary the evidence before the execution," she said quickly. "The proof that extremists ordered the attack on New Montana without proper authorization." Amy nodded. "You are doing the right thing," she said. "Remember to speak from your heart. Tell her the truth about what you have learned." Commander Leary entered the cell area moments later. She wore her formal uniform and carried the execution orders. Amy could see that the older alien had not slept either. Her face looked tired and troubled. "Commander," Zyra said, stepping forward, "I need to show you something urgent. These documents prove that the New Montana attack was illegal." Arayla stopped and stared at her subordinate. "What are you talking about?" "The attack was ordered by a secret faction within our military," Zyra explained quickly. "They used your grief about your brother's death to manipulate you into following unlawful commands. The High Council never approved the civilian targets." Leary looked at the data tablets with growing shock and anger as she read the documents. Her face changed from confusion to horror to rage. "These orders came directly from Admiral Vorthok," she said with disbelief. "He told me they were approved by the highest levels of government." "Admiral Vorthok is part of the extremist faction," Zyra replied. "He has been using unauthorized military actions to escalate the war. He wants total conflict, not peace negotiations, Commander." Leary sat down heavily, as if her legs could not support her. The weight of truth was crushing her. She looked at Amy with new understanding in her eyes. "Human, you knew this, did you not?" she asked quietly. "That is why you kept talking about innocent civilians. That is why you forgave us instead of hating us." Amy nodded. "I suspected that good people were being used by evil ones," she said. "Your pain over losing your brother was real, but it was being used to make you do things that went against your true nature." Leary stood up and began pacing back and forth. Her silver hair flowed behind her as she moved. Amy could see the internal struggle happening inside her. "What am I supposed to do now?" she asked. "If I report this, I will be branded a traitor to the Empire if I stay silent. More innocent people will desire. Stepped closer to her. Commander, you taught me that honor means doing what is right, even when it is difficult, she said. Now I am asking you to follow your own teachings. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship, emergency lights flashed, and they could hear running footsteps in the corridors outside. A voice came over the communication system, announcing that security forces were coming to carry out the execution. Laylee looked at the execution orders in her hands, then at Amy, then at Zyra. The moment of choice had arrived. I cannot do this, she said quietly. I cannot execute someone who showed me more honor in captivity than my own superiors showed in command. The security team arrived, led by a brutal-looking Valen officer with scars across his face. He looked at the three of them with cold eyes. Commander Lirelei, time for the execution, he said. Where is the prisoner? I'm under my protection now, Lirelei replied, standing between the security team and the crystal barrier. The scarred officer looked confused. What do you mean, Commander? You have your orders. I am countermanding those orders, Lirelei said with growing strength in her voice. This execution is based on illegal commands. I will not be part of war crimes anymore. The security officer reached for his weapon. You are committing treason. Commander, stand aside or we will remove you by force. Zyra moved to stand beside her commander. I stand with Commander Lirelei, she announced. This human has shown us what real honor looks like. We will not let you murder her. The security team raised their weapons, but hesitated. They had never seen officers rebel like this before. Amy watched from her crystal cell, feeling amazed and proud that her words had led to this moment. Commander Lirelei activated the cell controls and the crystal barrier disappeared. Amy stepped forward, still wearing chains, but finally free to move. Human, she said. I am Commander Lirelei Moonwhisper of the Valen Empire, and I formally request asylum for you, and safe passage to human space. Amy looked at both aliens with tears in her eyes. You are giving up everything for me, she said. Your careers, your families, your whole way of life. Lirel shook her head. We are not giving up everything, she said. We are finding everything that truly matters. Honor, dignity, the courage to do what is right. These things are more valuable than rank or status. The security team was getting impatient for orders from their superiors. More armed Valens were arriving. Amy realized they needed to move quickly. There is an escape shuttle in Bay 7, Zyra said. I can get us there if we move now. As they prepared to leave, Amy turned to both aliens one more time. You know that once you help me escape you can never go back, she said. Are you certain? This is what you want? Lee smiled for the first time since Amy had met her for the first time in years. I know exactly what I want, she said. I want to be part of building something better than this endless war. Zyra nodded agreement. I want to help create understanding between our peoples, she said. Your stories showed me that former enemies can become friends. Maybe we can show others the same thing. They fought their way through the ship corridors, helping each other and protecting one another. Amy was amazed at how naturally they worked as a team. Former enemies, now united by shared values and common purpose. And the escape shuttle, as they flew toward human space, Amy activated the communication system to contact her superiors. She looked at her two alien companions and smiled. This is Lieutenant Commander Amy Fletcher, she said. I am reporting something incredible. I have learned that our enemy is not who we thought. Some of them are just like us, searching for meaning, honor, and a place to belong. Sometimes the greatest victory is not defeating your enemy, but helping them find their way back to who they are meant to be. Commander Lirelei and Lieutenant Zyra looked out at the stars ahead of them. They carried with them proof of war, crimes, and evidence of extremist factions. They also carried something more precious: hope that understanding between species was possible. May continued her message to human command. I am returning with 2 Valen officers who chose honor over blind obedience, she said. They risk everything to do what is right. They have information that could help end this war, and they want to work toward peace. Their shuttle entered human space. Amy thought about all the stories she had shared about human values. Now, Those values were spreading beyond her own species, creating ripples of change that might reach across the galaxy. The three former enemies, now friends, prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had chosen the difficult path of building bridges instead of walls. They had chosen hope instead of hate. And in making that choice, they had discovered that the bonds between thinking beings were stronger than the boundaries between species. Their journey together was just beginning. But they faced it with courage, knowing they had found something worth fighting for: peace, understanding, and the belief that every being deserved a chance to choose their own destiny.